welcome back to the October Premiere Challenge here at Psycho Turtle Collectibles. Dennis Geisler, Emotional Support Pikachu, and we're about to get into round number 3 here of this tournament, starting to get into the more competitive rounds, more exciting rounds, the more important rounds. Every round is important, but in any case, we've got Abigail and Abhyu coming up in this one, and interesting thing here, we've got 2 giraffe teams. Farigiraffe on both Abhyu and Abigail's teams today. For Abhyu, it's Farigiraffe, Alolan Ninetales, Heatran, Landorus Therian, Ogerpon with the Teal Mask, and Urshifu Rapid Strike. For Abigail, it's Kingambit, Farigiraffe, Rillaboom, Iron Hands, Landorus Therian, and the Heartflame Mask, Ogerpon. Some similarities between the two teams, some differences. Abhyu has the Alolan Ninetales, does have the Light Clay and the Aurora Veil in order to try to bulk up the entire team. The Farigiraffes are also very different. For Abigail, it's Life Orb with Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Trick Room, Protect. It's the same set for Abhyu, but with safety goggles instead, and potentially some slightly different training for each of those 2 Pokemon. In any case, we are about to get into this one. Abigail already locked in her Pokemon, it looks like. Abhyu making those decisions. It's always difficult, especially if Farigiraffe is such an interesting Pokemon, and neither of these players has actually gone for the Trick Room, the Imprison Trick Room, to stop opposing Trick Rooms, just to get your own Trick Room up if you want, or turn around the Trick Room if that's something the other person did. You have the Armor Tail to stop that priority, but in any case, we may not be seeing a whole lot of Giraffe in this set, or maybe we will see Giraffe. I don't know. I'm curious. People, I hear it pronounced Farigiraffe and Farigiraffe. It's a giraffe. It's got to be Farigiraffe. That's my opinion, at least. Abhyu will lock in the Pokemon, and we will get underway. See what each of these players has gone for. No real way for Abigail to turn the weather different. So we'll be snow if Abhyu wants it to be snow, basically. Abigail will send out Kingambit and Ogerpon as the 2 leads. The Alolan Ninetales and Urshifu. So we'll be snow getting up immediately. But a lot of very scary damage from all directions immediately here. The Ogerpon threatening big damage onto everything here. Urshifu threatening real damage with that Surging Strikes onto the Ogerpon. I don't believe the... Oh, we'll see what the speed matchup between the 2 is. It's Kingambit threatening a bunch of damage onto everything, but also seriously threatened. Well, not seriously threatened by anything right now. Ogerpon will switch out. Abby will swap that out, fearing probably that damage from Urshifu. Instead, it'll be the Iron Hands coming in. Big, bulky guy. And this is the Aurora Veil. Urshifu gets a Swords Dance up, so behind the Aurora Veil gets the Swords Dance. Already going to be very scary. Iron Head, Adel, does not take down the Ninetales. Barely takes the hit. Wonder how close that was. But in any case, that is really huge that Ninetales is going to be able to stay up another turn. Not that its job is partly done. It just did what it needed to. Aurora Veil is up. But at the same time, it is always important to have that extra Pokemon available. Especially, now you're able to stall out an additional turn. Moonblast is super effective against Iron Hands if you need to. Able to use the Double Protect here. We'll stall out the Fake Out turn from Iron Hands, which it doesn't even go for. It goes for Wild Charge. And Kingambit will go for the Kowtow Cleave against the Ninetales. 2 protects. It does mean that 1 turn of Aurora Veil has been stalled out, as well as another turn of Snow, although the Aurora Veil is up for 8 turns in total with a light clay. So it should be mostly fine. We still have 6 remaining. That should be more than enough if this Urshifu is able to get some real damage down, which it will try to do. Terastallization, Terra Water, Urshifu. Going to start sending out that damage. Does have the Mystic Water, so all the damage in the world coming out. Sucker Punch will finish off the Ninetales. Didn't really have an option other than to attack there, so Ninetales will fall. And now, Surging Strikes coming out from the Urshifu into a very bulky Iron Hands. It does not matter. That Iron Hands takes 1 hit, takes a 2nd hit, and that 3rd hit will finish off the Iron Hands. A 1-hit knockout there for the Urshifu with that Surging Strikes. That's a very scary Urshifu. +2 attack with the Swords Dance, has the Surging Strikes, has the Aqua Jet for priority. Even if an Intimidate comes in, even if that Landorus Therian is in the back, not much that you can do about this Urshifu. Will be Heatran coming out, answering the Ogerpon, although this Heatran is Assault Vest. It's not that cool ability shield we saw 2 weeks ago that really answered the Ogerpon well. It is the normal Heatran set that answers everything else much better, but Ogerpon it still struggles with because it gets hit by Ivy Cudgel anyways. But Aqua Jet will be the choice for Urshifu. Does some good damage to Ogerpon, but not enough to finish it off. Sucker Punch aimed at, it looks like Urshifu, it must have been. Grassy Glide coming through, and that's not going to do all that much damage. I guess that's the, yeah, that is the only, ooh, missed the Heat Wave onto Ogerpon. Okay, so Ogerpon only has the Grassy Glide in terms of grass-type moves. It's Ivy Cudgel, Grassy Glide, Swords Dance, Spiky Shield, so it doesn't have the Wood Hammer, doesn't have a better option than Grassy Glide in this situation, so not able to finish off the Urshifu, not able to take it down, rather. Didn't decide to opt to aim for the Heatran, instead just tried to get the Urshifu out of the way as fast as possible. And the Heatran able to land the Heat Wave onto Kingambit, doing a bunch of damage, but not onto the Ogerpon. Might have actually finished off that Heart Flame Ogerpon. Would have been a neutral damage attack. Would have been certainly pretty close. Kingambit's going to switch out here, definitely fearing another Heat Wave hitting. And we will see the Giraffe. For a Giraffe coming through. Cool shiny. Aqua Jet. Ooh, because of the Armor Tail, going to get blocked. A nice play there from Abigail. And the Ivy Cudgel just smacks Heatran, the critical hit landing. Heat Wave does come out, and it does finish off the Ogerpon. So, some good breaks there from Abigail, but overall, still loses the Ogerpon. It's no stops, which I believe means there's 3 more turns of Aurora Veil remaining. And now it is just the Kingambit and the Farigiraf stand up to these two. Heatran can just keep sending out those same Heat Waves if it wants to. Even if it gets hit by Sucker Punch and drops, it's not a huge loss for Abhyu. In any case, we've got a very close matchup here. Let's see what Abigail decides to go for here. Sucker Punch is probably the best option as Kingambit for getting out of this situation, or at least getting anything out of it. But at the same time, you do have to predict what to Sucker Punch. You do want to try to get rid of that. The Sucker Punch does hit the Urshifu, does predict that correctly, but not going to finish it off. Surging Strikes into Farigiraf. Going to get 2 hits down and finish that Giraffe off pretty well. And meanwhile, see what the Heatran gets. Farigiraf does faint. Heat Wave comes out, it does land, and Kingambit is finished off. And that indeed is game number 1, going cleanly to Abhyu. Only the Alolan Ninetales dropping in that one for Abhyu. Yeah, that was just a real showcase of Urshifu. Obviously, there's been a lot of excitement over Ogerpon Hearthflame. Very fast, hits very hard, has some cool side abilities. Ivy Cudgel is a fantastic move. But at the end of the day, it fills a lot of similar roles at sometimes to Urshifu. And we just saw an example of why Urshifu is still one of the best Pokemon in the game, in my opinion. It still has the ability to ignore Protect, so your opponent will never be able to use that Protect to predict you out or anything. And it does have the ability to just Swords Dance and hit really hard. And that's what it did in that game, and it was well supported by the Ninetales. That's that Alolan Ninetales on its own that I've really liked lately, where it's not supported by a snow team. It is not a Ninetales leading a snow team. It's just a Ninetales setting up Aurora Veil, setting up the Light Clay Aurora Veil, and getting the rest of its team to be able to work around it. And Abby doesn't really have a ton of options. There's not really a ton of priority on Abby's team. There is the Rillaboom Grassy Glide, as well as the Ogerpon Grassy Glide, assuming Rillaboom has set up the grassy terrain. The rest of the team is not super fast. There is first Landorus, but I don't know if it would be able to stop the start that Abhyu was able to get up to last time. And it is the same lead. It is the Ninetales and the Urshifu. Abigail switched it up with the Iron Hands and the Landorus. Intimidate comes down. Urshifu now at -1. But Urshifu can do a lot of similar moves to last time. Could go for the Aurora Veil once again. Could try to go for the Swords Dance once again. I know we've seen that it will not be the Swords Dance, but I want to maintain the illusion. Abigail, immediate Terastallization. It will be the Landorus going to the Flying type. We'll be able to use that Terra-Flying Terra Blast that we have seen already today. Just one of the best moves in the game. It is the Double Protect, actually, from Abhyu. So able to stall out and read what Abigail was going for in turn number 1. Also was able to block the Fake Out. That's what came out of the Iron Hands. It wasn't. It was the Heavy Slam, actually. Actually, 2 moves targeting the Ninetales. Very fascinating, trying to make sure that Aurora Veil didn't get up. But now, Abhyu knows exactly what Abigail has available and exactly what Abigail can go for, and will be able to pivot around that properly, although, you know, that's the whole thing about Pokemon. Abigail knows that fact as well. But in any case, Abhyu gets the Landorus in, so that'll be -1 attack to Iron Hands and Abigail's Landorus. At this point, it'll be difficult to finish off that Ninetales, especially before it is able to get the Aurora Veil up. That one doesn't even target. That it does just under half of the HP to Landorus. Aurora Veil comes up, so that was before Aurora Veil even came up. Wild Charge targeted into the Landorus, so not able to do anything. It's a double target into the Urshifu, and simply not able to do much damage at all. Abhyu has pretty strong control over this game state right now. Has the Aurora Veil up. Landorus is able to choose what it wants to do right now. It has basically the same options available to it as Abigail's Landorus, except it's not locked into anything right now. Abigail will switch out the Landorus, switch in the Rillaboom, able to get a little bit more strength up on the field right now, also able to heal. This Landorus won't be able to do. Stomping Tantrum into the Iron Hands, really solid damage, does about half its health. There is that Ninetales Blizzard. Good damage against the Rillaboom. Heavy Slam does not take down the Ninetales. The Aurora Veil saves it. This will be tough for Abigail to work around now. Stomping Tantrum should finish off the Iron Hands. Blizzard will do a lot of damage to Rillaboom after that. Rillaboom does have the Grassy Glide available if it wants to. It also has Fake Out available if it wants to. And instead, the Iron Hands will switch out, be preserved a little longer. Ogerpon is what comes in its place. No Terastallization available for this Ogerpon, so we'll just stick around with the Mold Breaker. Grassy Glide not going to finish off the Landorus. Stomping Tantrum into the Ogerpon. Decent damage, and that Blizzard Not going to finish off the Rillaboom. Going to do a little bit of damage to Ogerpon. Rillaboom with a Citrus Berry, going to chomp down and heal up a bit. But in any case, still going to be a dangerous spot for Abigail to be in. Really needs to... well, it's a little bit better than I had immediately thought. Another Grassy Glide will finish off the Landorus, if that's the choice. The Ogerpon it'll probably take some damage. It's a Terastallization now from Abhyu. On that Landorus, very little HP remaining. I believe it's 36 health remaining on Abyu's Landorus. Now trying to send out that last couple hits, make sure that it's able to take care of something before it drops. The Grassy Glide from Ogerpon sends it down to 8 health, and the Grassy Glide from Rillaboom, both Grassy Glides target into the Landorus and are able to take it down. Wasted Terastallization from Abhyu. Great read by Abigail. Not a terrible decision regardless, as either Grassy Glide was likely to finish off the Landorus immediately, and at that point you were now able to decide. You were then just able to hit the Ninetales for a little bit of extra damage, but in that case it was very useful. Both of the priority moves ended up going into it. Now the question, the Urshifu back out. What is the Urshifu going to do right now? It is a neutral attack, so not +2 as it was in the last game, not -1 as it was at the start of this game. Could do some real damage against this Ogerpon, but at the same time, this Ogerpon is threatening some real damage against Urshifu. Those two Grassy Glides are still available, and it will be a double out from the Urshifu, making sure that there's a little bit more time to layer some damage down. Heatran comes in. Ogerpon does end up using Grassy Glide, but it's into the Ninetales. It is the double Grassy Glide into that Ninetales, and so that finishes off the Alola Ninetales from Abhyu. And now it is just the Heatran and the Urshifu remaining against Abigail's army of Pokemon remaining. Abhyu gets the Urshifu back onto the field. At this point, Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel does some good damage against Heatran, although not great damage. The last time we saw it crit, it didn't finish it off, so it should do under half. Both these Pokemon do some good damage as well. Rillaboom going to switch out, going to be able to cycle its Fake Out. Iron Hands is what comes in, which has its own Fake Out. Urshifu detects, trying to make a prediction there, but Ogerpon will protect as well. So the only one attacking this turn may in fact be Heatran, who uses the Heat Wave. A Heat Wave burn here on Iron Hands would be huge. And it does burn. Wow. It does burn the Iron Hands. Iron Hands now, I believe, on a 2-turn timer. Oh no, the Grassy Terrain's up, so Iron Hands isn't on a timer until the Grassy Terrain drops down, which is now. Rillaboom is going to be able to come back in and cycle that again, but that was a really huge turn for Abigail. It's not perfect because the Iron Hand still gets its job done. It still is able to Fake Out. It's still able to stop a little bit of damage. But now, this is a serious choice to make for Abigail. Grassy Glide doesn't have priority anymore because the Grassy Terrain is down. It's just a moderately weak move. Detect, the choice again for the Urshifu. It will Fake Out. It will get Fake Outed, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Grassy Glide does a little under half of its HP. Iron Hands gets finished off by the Heat Wave. Ogerpon taken down to very low health. And the decision from Abigail to switch into is the Rillaboom. So now it's Rillaboom, Rillaboom, Ogerpon once again. Both Pokemon with that Grassy Glide, both the availability to finish off this Urshifu, although at the same time, it'll be difficult but not impossible to finish off the Heatran without it, or without the Ogerpon, which is why the Ogerpon's getting switched out now. Landorus coming back in. An opportunity here for Abhyu to try to finish off his Landorus at full health. Really have to get some damage down on this thing if Abhyu is going to win game number 2 here. Why the Heatran gets fake outed. This is a big opportunity though for Urshifu. It is the Aqua Jet, does not do much damage at all. Heatran flinches, and now this Urshifu's in some real danger. Aurora Veil wears off as well, so now the Urshifu going to take a lot of damage against a Grassy Glide from Abigail's Rillaboom, as well as the damage that Urshifu will take against... Well, it doesn't even matter. Grassy Glide finishes off the Urshifu, and it is just the Heatran remaining, stopping Tantrum. Will do a lot of damage. It's a one-hit KO. Ring the bell. We're heading to game number 3. Really, really good change there by Abigail. Getting that early terrestrialization from the Landorus, as well as just working around the Grassy Glide synergy with Ogerpon and Rillaboom really well. Those two Pokemon were... those two Pokemon were working well together. That's a big thing about Grassy Glide, is that its power was weakened, so it's not a great move on any Pokemon other than Rillaboom, because Rillaboom just gets the Grassy Glide priority for free because it has Grassy Surge. But if you know you're going to be working alongside the Rillaboom, getting that double Grassy Glide can be very, very useful. So we'll see what the decision is for game number 3. Abhyu is going to go with the same lead once again. We'll see what Abigail decides to go for. This is game number 3, or round number 3 here at this Premier Challenge. Championship points on the line. I was talking to Abhyu before the tournament. He definitely wants those championship points. Abigail with the Ogerpon Rillaboom, matching up against this Alola Ninetales and Urshifu. That double Grassy Glide is a real threat against either of these Pokemon right now. And Abhyu may opt for the same opening as the last game. The double Protect indeed is the choice. Means no fake out, but also means you get to scout out what the decision is from Abigail, although it means Abigail will get to make another read. And it's the Swords Dance, reading the double Protect perfectly, getting the Swords Dance off. What a great call by Abigail. That is a very scary Ogerpon now. Has the priority, but the Grassy Glide can terrestrialize if it wants to, has Mold Breaker to break through a Heatran in the back. This is really scary right now if you're Abhyu trying to play around this Ogerpon. You do have options. There are still a lot of things that you can do against this Ogerpon, but it's definitely scary trying to deal with these two Pokemon right now. Abhyu will take the Ninetales back, so no Aurora Veil up for the first time this series. It's Heatran coming in right now. For Urshifu, it's a double switch from Abhyu. Landorus will be the one that comes in now. Could be the, so it is now -1 to both of these Pokemon. Ogerpon now just at +1 attack. Ivy Cudgel comes out. It's targeted into the Heatran and does a serious amount of damage to that Heatran. Wood Hammer, targeted into the Landorus, good damage as well. Even at -1, Rillaboom still doing pretty good damage there. And I'd personally be very scared if I was Abhyu right now. I have secondhand fear watching it. This is a very scary Ogerpon to deal with right now. And even just at +1 right now, it is just at +1, but it is doing a lot of damage. And you do have to watch out for the Grassy Glide, which will do priority to each of your Pokemon. Landorus doesn't really have an option, doesn't really have anything it can do other than Terrestrialize, and even then, a double Grassy Glide might just finish it off. It'll be close. Rillaboom will switch out. So Abigail will cycle that Pokemon. It'll be the Landorus of her own to deal with Abhyu's Landorus. It'll drop Abhyu's Landorus's attack. So now it's +1 Ogerpon neutral Abigail's Landorus and Abhyu's Landorus at -1. Now terastallizing, flying again. Does have the Terra Blast. Will do super effective damage to Ogerpon, but how much will that do at -1 attack? And Abigail will terastallize herself. That will be that cool Ogerpon with a big, big mask. +1 attack coming out of this. Look at how scary that guy is. Nah, she's cute. I like Ogerpon. She's so cute. +2 attack now. The Grassy Glide does finish off the Landorus, even through the pure flying type, even with not very effective damage. Second game in a row, Abhyu loses the Landorus right after terastallizing. Now the pure fire Pokemon. Ogerpon does not take much damage at all. Restores some health. Abigail in a really good spot to take over this game here. Heatran does still have a little bit of power available, although the problem is that Landorus on Abigail's side is now seriously threatening this Heatran. A Choice Scarf Stomping Tantrum will finish off that Heatran, and this Ogerpon will just run rampant over the rest of this team. Abhyu might have to pivot again, might have to try to play around this a little bit more. Heatran will switch out. Urshifu might be one of the best things at trying to deal with this fire Ogerpon right now. Grassy Glide targets the Urshifu. One hit KO. Knocks it out. Another great move by Abigail. And the Stomping Tantrum heads into the Ninetales. Does some okay damage, but feels all but over right now. A Choice Scarf Stomping Tantrum into the Heatran should finish that Pokemon off. An Ivy Cudgel into the Ninetales should finish that Pokemon off. We'll see if that's how it plays out. As Ogerpon getting that Swords Dance off on turn number 1. Stomping Tantrum? Yes, it does. Finishes off the Heatran. And one final Ivy Cudgel. Oh, first the Blizzard. Finishes off the Landorus. Picks up another KO. Ogerpon eats it easily. And here comes the Ivy Cudgel. Swinging down the hammer. And there's the KO on the Ninetales. Abigail with the Game 1 loss, but winning games 2 and 3. What a prediction in Game 3. Pulling out the Swords Dance right in front of a double protect. And picking up the victory in round number 3. A great game, or a great set from both of these players. Got to see a lot of the consistent options between these two. Got to see that Heatran versus Ogerpon matchup, especially that Ogerpon Hearthflame that we've seen a lot of kind of gotten to know a little bit more, especially as Ogerpon, once it terastallizes, it has a very different matchup against it. And then just seeing the Farigiraf on both sides didn't do a whole lot in the series. Just brought once, just for Abigail one time, but even still, got to feel the Giraffe's presence through everything. With that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with round number 4 in just a bit, so don't go anywhere.